Hi everyone, I'm Paige Abbott, and this is your weekly recovery message. Who isn't carrying some resentments out there? I know I am, and everyone that I've talked to carries some form of resentment or another. And it always gets me thinking, where do resentments come from? And I've heard it often that resentments come from expectations. And that makes sense to me. So, expectations are very rigid, narrow ways of looking at what should be. So, it makes sense that if we're carrying these really narrow and rigid versions of what should be and it doesn't happen, that we would feel resentment. Now, many of us are stuck with some feeling of resentment because of an expectation that we've carried at some time or another. So what do we do with those? Well, there's lots of different ways to keep working with resentment. A big part of that to try and prevent resentment from building moving forward is to work on letting go of expectations. So we can have hopes, we can have goals, but hopes and goals are flexible. They're not extremely rigid and controlled, and give opportunity for the process to unfold as it needs to. So for instance, if I'm connecting with a new person and wondering if this will evolve into a friendship, an expectation would be that they connect with me regularly and on a certain schedule, that when we meet, we connect at a certain level and engage in a certain way. Whereas a hope and a goal is I go in open. There's a new person and I bring my authentic self and put that out there and see what I get back. And the relationship and the friendship will evolve as it's meant to, rather than how I think it should be. So working on letting go of expectations and shifting into hopes and goals territory is an extremely important part of working on letting go of resentment. Now, how does that address letting go of resentment from the past? Well, if we're working on acceptance and openness and hopes and goals now and moving forward, it actually can provide some support for resentments that we're carrying, because that belief of being more open and accepting and recognizing that things will go as they need to rather than how we think they should actually allows for some of that healing and letting go of some of that resentment that you're carrying even towards past situations or events. Another way to keep processing resentment is to actually process them. So talk about your feelings, not necessarily with the person you're feeling resentful towards. That can create more hurt and potentially damage to self and to the relationship. But it would be important to process it with your neutral supports. So talk about it with your friends and people where you can just release it and get it out. Another place to do that is in a journal or through a creative process, really to work on identifying the resentment and the feeling, but then to take that second step of really working on releasing it and letting it go. So acceptance and surrender are huge parts of dealing with resentment. And I hope that each of you will continue to work on practicing and challenging yourselves to push to that place of acceptance and letting go, and really appreciating the process. And even the things that you're carrying resentment for, your brain may be telling you these were bad things that weren't meant to happen, primarily because they didn't follow that script of how things should go. But now, with the knowledge and the understanding that you have, can you work on appreciating that it actually went as it needed to? And that's pretty cool. So looking at things through a different perspective, and every day challenging yourself to have that open perspective and trusting in those greater forces beyond, that things will go as they need to, not necessarily how we think they should. And you'll be surprised that life feels a lot different, and the anger and the resentment that you're carrying will slowly but surely continue to dissipate. And what a freedom that is. To live with less resentment is such a load off that it really is a boost for mental health and well-being. So I wish you all the best in your ongoing journey to let go of expectations and to let go of resentments and move into acceptance, surrender, and hopes and goals. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.